Hello everybody, it's time for a weekly wrap-up of June 19th, 2016. This is actually a double weekly wrap-up because last weekend I wasn't able to film. I was visiting Bree from Stories from the Shelf, so this week, time for some catch-up. Recently I've read some really great books and comics, so I'm just feeling superlative about reading right now. The first three things I'm only going to mention briefly because I've filmed a separate video about them, and those are the three trade comics I read this past week. We have Lazarus Volume 2, Giant Days Volume 1, and Descender Volume 2 Machine Moon. I enjoyed all three of these immensely, and I'm really looking forward to continuing with the series. First is The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinge. This is a young adult fantasy horror novel, and it's been recently raved about by many people because it won the Costa Book of the Year award. I assume this is a pretty prestigious award the way people are talking about it, and it's why I picked it up because so many people were saying great things about it, and it was an excellent book. This follows 14-year-old Faith Sunderly and her family. Her father is a natural scientist, and I assume this takes place in the late 1800s or the early 1900s. Her family abruptly leaves their home and goes to live on an island to escape the rumors of scandal about her father's work. Something happens on the island and Faith's father dies, and then Faith tries to investigate whether he was actually murdered. People are saying that he committed suicide, and along the way she discovers the lie tree, which can be fed lies, and then when you eat the fruit of the tree, it gives you back a truth of equal importance related to the lie that you spread and you fed to it. And Faith begins to use the lie tree to investigate her father's death even further and to begin to take revenge on those people she thinks is responsible. There are two amazing things about this book, and the first is the character of Faith herself. Everything about this book hangs on her character and what she is doing, and she is a complicated person. For a lot of the story, I thought she was headed down this awful road of becoming a bad person, of becoming a villain. She does some unlikable things. She toes that line between trying to do the right thing to prove her father was murdered and to bring people to justice, but then going too far and destroying people. Parts of her make her an unlikable person. Other parts, like her love and her care for her younger brother, were heartwarming. She has a combative relationship with her mother, who she sees as shallow and only caring about appearances. And there is this growth, this journey, as Faith discovers what she has to do, what women have to do in this time, in this place, to survive. Her mother uses her looks and her flirtations as the only tools available to her as a woman to survive and to keep her family with a roof over their heads. And Faith doesn't understand this for a large portion of the story. But then she begins meeting other women. There's that backhanded compliment that's often given to women of saying, "Oh, I like you because you're not like other girls," which is massively insulting to other women. And Faith says to herself that she had always told herself she was unique, that she wasn't like other women, that she's better because of her interests, because of what she wants to do, that she's rebellious underneath this calm facade. But then she starts to find out she might in fact be like other women. Other women are also like this. The second thing that I loved about this was the writing. Hardinge is a magnificent writer. There were multiple points where I reread descriptions and figures of speech, these similes and metaphors, and just enjoyed them so much. And there is a final piece of dialogue, the last thing that Faith says in the book on the very last page, that I mentally was just cheering over. It's the culmination of Faith's journey about what she's gonna do with her life. And I was just like, go kick some butt. Next is a completely fun, light, fluffy read, Newt's Emerald by Garth Nix. This is his take on a really fun fantasy Regency romance about Lady Truthful Newington, who is supposed to inherit the Newington Emerald. It's passed down by the women in her family and has immense magical properties. When it's taken out to show her on her 18th birthday, I believe, it disappears, it's been stolen. and she goes off into society to recover the lost emerald. She disguises herself as a boy, and then on her adventures she meets the man who will be her romantic partner eventually. They at first dislike each other, of course, it's kind of the trope of the genre, and then, you know, they recover the emerald. It's a completely predictable book. You can easily poke holes in the plot and the lack of character growth. It was like eating cake after you haven't had cake for a really, really long time. One of the things that I do love a lot about this that made it so enjoyable is that there honestly aren't many impediments to what Lady Truthful wants to do. Her father is very supportive of her. She has a very loving family. She has 3 older cousins, 3 boys who she thinks of as brothers, and they also love her a lot. Her aunt, for one, is incredibly supportive, like I said, of her cross-dressing. No one says, this is an awful idea, Truthful, you shouldn't do that. They're like, you know what you need? You need an ensorcelled mustache to complete your disguise. The audiobook that I listened to recently was Grunt, The Curious Science of Humans at War by Mary Roach. This is her recent nonfiction popular science book that came out on June 7th, and it was really good. I am a huge fan of Packing for Mars by her, and I think Stiff would be my second favorite, but I officially think that Grunt is now my second favorite by Mary Roach. It was just interesting. It had more genuine, gross out surprise moments in it, which I think that's an odd thing to say that you like about a book, but you know, that's kind of what you're looking for when you read a Mary Roach book. It also had more information in it that I didn't know anything about. And that's the thing that I've noticed about some of her books, is that while they're interesting and they're told in a really great style, I actually know a lot of the stuff in the books already. But with Grunt, I think it's because it's an area I'm not always interested in. I'm not super interested in military or in warfare. And this is, I want to emphasize, not a book about making better weapons, about killing more people more efficiently or whatever. It is about the conditions that soldiers have to live with, that armies and military have to deal with, and the science being used to combat, those things. So if you're concerned that this book is in some way glorifying war and killing people, no, I think it does the absolute opposite. It just shows you how disgusting and difficult and awful and painful some of these things are. For example, in World War II, when there were a lot of like bombs and stuff going off underneath ships, it would rock the ship up very abruptly, and it caused a thing called deck slap, where it would just slam people's legs and their feet, and there was a high occurrence of broken heels. Not broken ankles, but your actual heel. This is an awful thing. You break the bones, but you also crush what's called the fat pad of your heel. And the fat pad is this gristly, tough type of fat found nowhere else on your body. It doesn't seem to heal very well, and you can't transplant something to recover that. When the fat pad is destroyed, walking, even when your bones heal, walking is so painful that apparently the rate of amputation is like 40%. It's a little bit less today, but it's still a massively high rate of amputation because people would rather have their foot cut off than try to walk without a fat pad. I had no idea about this, but I'm like, whenever I walk now, I'm like, wow, yeah, I love my heel. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I might even re-listen to the audiobook at some point. I always listen to Roach's books on audiobook. I think that they're really well done. This one was really great. This next book, I'm not sure if I can succinctly talk about it. That is All That Outer Space Allows by Ian Sales. Technically, this is the 4th book in the Apollo Quartet, but each of the books is kind of standalone. They're related to each other in that they are all set during the Apollo missions, but they each do their own reimagining of that time, of that place, of those events. This particular one focuses on the conceit, the reimagining of 1950s, 1960s, and a little bit of 70s science fiction as being almost a women's genre, dominated by women rather than men. Women have always been in in the genre, but they are forgotten and erased and ignored until recently. So the conceit of this book is easy to miss if you don't know that. And in fact, I didn't really notice it until the end. The story follows Jenny Eckhart, who is a science fiction writer, as well as eventually the wife of one of the Apollo mission astronauts. The Eckharts are stand-ins for the Irwins, who were real people, and a lot of real people show up in this. Ginny is very reminiscent of James Tiptree Jr., also known as Alice Sheldon, particularly in that she is supposed to write and publish a story called The Spaceships That Men Don't See, which is almost exactly the same title as The Women Men Don't See that Alice Sheldon, James Tiptree actually did publish. The story follows Ginny as she supports her husband, and she's that good 1960s housewife to her husband as he's training to be an astronaut. Her struggles with being part of the Astronaut Wives Club and how she doesn't feel like she fits in, and then the stories that she writes throughout these years. It doesn't have a really strong conclusion, just in my opinion. I wanted a little bit more about what she decides to do at the end of this, but mostly it was just so interesting because I am interested in immersing myself in women and science fiction, and it made me want to read and dig up and read a whole bunch of these female authors that are mentioned. My only criticism of this book is that I don't think the writing is particularly strong. The ideas, the mashups, the alt history are fascinating, but there were parts where I thought maybe this should have been edited a bit more. I don't know. So overall, I botched talking about this book, but it was interesting. Definitely something I think I might reread to get more out of it when I know more about the people and things being referenced in it. The final thing I have to talk about is The Geek Feminist Revolution by Kameron Hurley. This is a collection of her essays, many of them originally blog posts about being a geek, being a feminist, revolution in the science fiction and fantasy community. My battery's running out, so I'm not going to say too much about this book. A couple of other people have done excellent reviews on this that say a lot of things that I agree with, like Bree has done a review, I think, and Yamini, so I will link those for you. I had read some of these as original blog posts. I had already read the Women Have Always Fought essay, which won Hurley a Hugo Award. That's still one of the most fantastic things in here. I love this book. It really makes you feel like you want to go out and be a revolutionary in science fiction and fantasy in the fan community as a whole. Makes you want to be an out and proud feminist geek and be the loud person that Hurley wants you to be in the vein of people like Joanna Russ. Just excellent. I'm not sure what else to say about this because, I mean, it is exactly what it says on the cover. It's the Geek Feminist Revolution, and you want somebody to give you some inspiration, read this. Okay, that's everything I read this past week, and I really do need to wrap up because it's blinking at me. It's very scary in red. As quickly as possible, I am currently reading a bunch of things. I started on Lord Darcy by Randall Garrett. A bunch of people were so interested in this book once I hauled it, so I've started on the first story. I will tell you more about that later. I'm going to finish up Apex by Ramez Naam, hopefully today during the weekend, and I'll talk more about that later. I'm not enjoying this book very much. I'm buddy reading it with Tara, and we're both agreeing it's a bit of a slog. I have started on The Book of Phoenix by Nnedi Okorafor. I just read the first chapter, and it blew me away. I cannot wait to read more, and I have been slowly trying to chip away at Brasyl by Ian McDonald. I think I'm only 2 chapters into this. It's got a writing style. It's a bit different from Luna New Moon, and it's a whole bunch of Brazilian Portuguese terms and stuff that I am having a hard time absorbing, so it takes a lot of brain power, and mostly I want to read fun things right now. But those are the 4 major things I am reading at the moment. Whew, I think I'm talked out. So hope you guys had an amazing weekend. Hope you are staying cool if you are in a part of the world that's having the heat wave right now. I am tired of temperatures being in the mid-90s. I'm just tired of it, and I'm tired of having to water my garden every day, but this too shall pass. So I will talk to you guys again later. Bye.